I used to live somewhere warmer, more civilized. Unfortunately, they had some strong opinions about my diet. Apparently eating one raider is concerning, eating 3 raiders is a pattern, and naming them, that's where they drew the line. The first thing I needed to do is gather some materials to build a shelter. My only choice of survival is living next to what looks like the planet's backside. I guess I finally found where I belong. Now, that's the shelter sorted, which means it's time to think about food. Unfortunately out here, food doesn't just fall over and season itself, which means if I want to eat, I'm going to need a bit more persuasion. So I'm upgrading from hope to blunt force. But before I go out negotiating with dinner, I need sleep. So I threw together a bed. Dinner, unfortunately, has no idea I'm here. Just a quick swing of the persuasion stick and it's done. My mood is not great. Turns out living naked in the tundra and eating rabbits raw has its consequences. So I do what any reasonable man would do. I build a horseshoe pin, because nothing fixes emotional instability like throwing metal rings at a stick in the snow. Then I realise I've been eating like an animal, so I build a table and chairs. Because if I'm going to spiral into madness out here, I'd at least like to do it sitting down like a civilised predator. My mood improves slightly, so I build a butcher spot. Tomorrow, I can continue my career as a cold weather menace. I wake up cold, angry and still naked, so I do what any rational survivor would do. I build a spike trap, then I go mining, still naked. Steel doesn't care about my dignity, so neither do I. Back at base, I expand the shelter just enough to justify calling it a base, and I build a research table, because I've decided I am now a thinker, a man of science. Then my brain politely refuses further participation in reality. Work stops. I retreat to my room and hide, because even cannibals need a mental health break apparently. That's when a visitor shows up, a real one, alive, confident, making the worst possible decision of his life by walking in my direction. For a moment I remember I used to be a normal person, then I remember I'm starving. I greet him the only way I really know how, with enthusiasm, poor judgment and a heavy stick. When I come back to myself, he's no longer standing. Fortunately, I made a few new enemies. This isn't a bad thing though, as they will be sending me more meals in future. I'm wearing clothes I definitely did not earn in any socially acceptable way. I'm sat chilling, thinking about my next move, when a mad snow hare runs straight into my trap. After this, my son passes through, but even he doesn't want to know me. Who would want a cannibal as a father? I begin butchering today's special, a locally sourced, free-range, ethically acquired protein. Midway through preparing my ethically sourced protein, a lynx launches a surprise attack. After a brief but spirited disagreement, it's dealt with, and I return to dinner prep like nothing happened. Whilst resting, the sky gave me a present, compacted machinery. Later, I finally tried yesterday's ethically sourced protein, and it was good. Whilst I'm repairing the trap, a raid arrives from the filthy blighter, and it turns out to be one woman armed with a knife. At the exact same time, a slaver caravan arrives from Hoverdavadavada. Then everything immediately goes wrong in the best possible way, because they notice each other and suddenly there's a lot of shooting. When it's over, the knife lady is down and I take the opportunity to acquire her clothes, because in the tundra, fashion is survival. And then I finish the job quietly and quickly, like I planned it all along. Once that's sorted, I decide to finally improve my life in a meaningful way, so I build a tailor's bench. Then I start researching hydroponics, because I've decided rice is the future of civilization here. The slaver caravan picks up and leaves while I'm working, which feels like the correct outcome for everyone involved. Then I enjoy the rest of my evening with some succulent protein. While I'm chasing a snow hare through the snow, mostly out of principle at this point, a man named Paul wanders into my territory. I have two thoughts about Paul, one of them being his usefulness as a surgeon, and the other, well, dinner, depending on how the next few days go. Anyway, Paul and I decide to create a faction called Manhunt and call our settlement a very fitting name, Chillville. Paul was great and smart and got straight to work on the research project I had started. Later, we decided to do some bonding, hunting a snow fox. After we got the fox, Paul pulled out some tasty meals. That's when I realised he was holding out on me. I demanded he gave them to me. While I'm back at the base, doing what I consider chilling, which mostly involves sitting near an increasingly organised chaos, a man called Grey turns up. On his way to the base, he picks up some steel, which I briefly interpret as teamwork. Unfortunately, beyond carrying capacity, Gray doesn't really offer much to this situation. So I take his clothes, because waste is a luxury I can't afford, and then I do what I usually do when a problem becomes too complicated for conversation. I reach for my persuasion stick. After I deal with Gray using my usual method of problem solving, I start carrying him over to the butcher spot. On the way, I manage to trip over one of my own spike traps, which feels like an important reminder that I am not in fact the apex predator I keep telling myself I am. Luckily, Paul is there to pull me out of it, which is mildly embarrassing but also reassuring, because it turns out having a surgeon around is useful for more than just moral judgment. He then feeds me some of the good stuff and I immediately feel better. Paul tries some himself. This turns out to be a mistake. He doesn't like it at all. After that, he just goes to bed. I'm still in bed recovering from my earlier argument with a spike trap, so I don't see most of what happens next. The filthy blighters send their second offering anyway. One raider, probably confident, probably wrong. Paul deals with it quickly, using a revolver I didn't even know he had. I just hear it from inside the base, along with the usual sounds of problems being solved without me. I make a mental note to stop assuming people in my life are unarmed. Whilst Paul and I are resting, a flash storm, psychic soothe and a caravan arrive all at once. We now feel good. The storm is far away and we sell our gold to buy 2 ducks and a chicken. These little avian guys were never meant to be pets, just meals. We really don't like raw meat from these animals, but it's the only way to survive. But Paul had enough and decided to get baked. The guys from Havana were so kind, they left us some gifts. I decided to join Paul in getting baked. Man, this stuff was good. Too good. Last thing I remember was smoking and talking to Paul. The next, I'm in bed again. A visitor arrives while I'm still a bit off from the smoke leaf. I buy some packaged survival meals because I suddenly remember I'm hungry. Probably just the munchies. The visitor leaves and I'm not entirely sure what just happened. When Paul comes round from his smoke leaf binge, he sits back down and finishes the hydroponics research. We decide it's best to research batteries now. Whilst he is doing the research, I go on a hunt for another rabbit. I then go on with making the human skin pants I've been thinking about. I put them on and they feel great. I feel great. Paul and I decide we can take down an Arctic wolf. I'm not sure why we both agree on this, but it feels correct at the time. We set a trap and wait, and the wolf runs straight into it. After that, we decide the base is too small for how confident we're becoming, so we expand it. Mostly just more walls, more rooms, and more space for problems to happen in. Paul has been good for the team. He's fixed problems, finished research, and generally made life easier to survive. But now the food situation has become critical, so I start looking at him differently. Paul notices. He doesn't say anything, which honestly makes it worse. I'll admit, that wasn't my proudest moment, but pride doesn't keep you warm. If you want to see what I do next to stay alive, come back for the next episode.